Hello everyone, welcome back to the Bucket Thanks for Comics of the Week, and we're going to go right into it with Action Comics number 1002. So our story opens up with Miss Good, who has reported on the death of the gangster Yogurt, who we saw get roughed up by the Red Cloud, and she claims that the witnesses said that Superman dropped him, and Perry's not buying it, primarily because he has other reports as well as photographs showing that Superman was in Coast City with the Justice League, and he tells her that she has to redo the piece, figure out exactly what was going on, why everyone thinks Superman did it. And Perry has Clark shadow her while it's going on. Later on, another gangster, Moxie, contacts the Whisper, checking to see if Superman is still in Metropolis, only to be attacked by the Guardian, who is in turn attacked by the Red Cloud. And he's pretty roughed up. Maggie Sawyer goes to see him in the hospital and finds out about the Red Cloud from him. Meanwhile, Clark finds out more about Yogurt while investigating a bar, which is full of people grieving over his death, and finds out that Yogurt started most, if not all, the fires in Metropolis. The idea is that if you start the fire, Superman goes to stop them, and then they commit bigger crimes. Perry knows that this is something that you'd expect in Gotham City, which was pretty much Batman Eternal, I might add, where Clue mastered a bunch of other lower-ranked criminals orchestrated a big event to distract Batman while they committed their own crimes. And Clark just sort of can't deal with that. He has to go off into space and just vent about how he's been tricked and duped. And he does this by punching meteors and asteroids, just venting. It's hilarious. Actually, it's actually it's really good. Like, the art for that is great. The entire art in this book is actually really good. At the planet, Cat Grant shows up to visit and to congratulate Clark for Lois's book, which confuses Clark, as Lois should still be somewhere off in space. Meanwhile, at a restaurant, Miss Good and Mr. Strong, the gang leader we saw in the previous issue, talk about what their plans are, and she says she needs some kryptonite, and they also mention their employer, who Strong is still talking to, that she has someone wrapped around her finger, as the comic cuts to Superman approaching a woman who reveals herself to be Lois Lane. So I still don't quite get how Bendis is writing two books about the same character, going through pretty much the same stuff, and yet one is directly better than the other. Maybe Rogolzar is just too stupid an idea. I don't know. Supergirl seems to have the right idea about it, but I don't know. Action Comics 1002 is another example as to why Bendis is a good choice for Superman. When he keeps it at street level, keeps it to Metropolis. He's very much a writer where you can't give him everything. You have to restrict him. He's like Tim Burton. Don't give Tim Burton the keys to everything. He'll just Tim Burton it up and you get Alice in Wonderland. Give him the restrictions and you'll get something like Nightmare Before Christmas. I love the art in this book. I love the idea that Superman isn't quite ready or isn't used to dealing with street level thugs like organized crime because they're ready for him. Like, Miss Good actually writes that she needs kryptonite. She doesn't say it because she doesn't want Superman to hear it. The entire criminal underground of Metropolis has eyes in the sky. They're trailing Superman. Is he out of the city? He is? All right, let's commit the crimes. We start a fire. Hey, he's distracted. Commit some crimes. It's great. It's really brilliant. It's really great stuff. And I wanted this book to be bad because I'm on a budget. Anyway, let's come up to Avengers issue 6 as the quote-unquote Not Avengers engage the final host and the Horde. The feel of the battle is felt from Odin's Throne, Wakanda, Jean Grey, the Starbrand, and even the Unseen, who's Nick Fury. The battle is going good for the most part, but it begins to turn as Hulk and Thor's powers begin to fade and Tony loses an arm while fighting them. Tony contemplates throwing one of them into the sun and to sort of send a message to the other ones, hopefully that they'll get the hint and leave, while Captain Marvel wants to evacuate the planet, but Ghost Rider, now possessing one of the hosts, starts losing control and says they believe them to be God's vomit, which leads them to thinking that if the Horde is the disease, then perhaps they are the cure, that the final hosts saw potential in them, and that they could defeat the Horde, a living virus vaccine, as Doctor Strange calls it. This is when Tony remembers the Unimind that the Eternals told him about, so that they all have to just join hands and something heart of the cards. We put our hearts into the game. There's nothing we can't do. The power of one, just kind of generic, and they're able to wipe out the entirety of the Horde as Thor and Hulk make out again. And having dealt with the Horde, the Avengers now engaging the remaining final hosts with the help of some other Eternals. Loki laughs as the comic ends, saying, "Welcome back, Avengers." So Avengers issue 6 it's interesting. This seems to pretty much be the final part of this particular story, and honestly, this was a good story. It's weird it all happens in one night, but invasions, superheroes, how you do. I don't really quite like this. Wasn't really a lot going on. It looks like there's a lot going on, but they all just sort of like, wait, this is the moment where we solve the problem, right? Solve the problem, and we solve the problem. It's interesting to see the character interactions, seeing how Ghost Rider plays off of Captain America, of Tony Stark, those two different sort of viewpoint, different modes of leadership going in. That was interesting. Captain Marvel didn't have much to do, neither did Black Panther, neither did Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange played off well with Black Panther during their investigation, and Thor and She-Hulk seemed to be that couple that you never thought would happen, but let's see how Jennifer Walters feels about it. It seems that Loki knew this was going to happen. Like, Loki was like, welcome back, Avengers. Like, for Loki, we're going to roll the dice. Like, I don't want to admit that I like you guys. I don't want to admit that I like that my brother likes you guys. I'm just going to be Loki and bring the final host in to deal with the Horde so that you all will have to fight off the Horde, realizing what you were really created for in the first place. It's sort of weird that Loki does that, but it's very Loki, the sort of trickster, the long con. But overall, I'm enjoying this Avengers book. I'm glad that I'm going to keep reading it. Next up, we have Detective Comics number 987. So, Karma attacks Wayne Enterprises and takes one of the security guards hostage as Batman and company go over the information Batgirl was able to procure in regards to Karma's helmet. The woman's name is Martina Dementieva from Markovia, and she runs the country's black market. Batman theorizes that Karma's synaptic nervous system is dependent on the helmet, which is why Jefferson's lightning didn't do anything to him. It's making so he doesn't feel the pain. The intel itself comes from a series of files acquired from Amanda Waller hacking Brainiac from the events of Justice League No Justice. Markovia is just one of the threats around the world that Batman wants his new team to deal with, or as I call it, a new book is coming. Alfred fills them in on what happened at Wayne Enterprises, which Batman gives us a rundown about the security guard, Fred, how he's worked for Wayne Enterprises for 12 years, he's a father of 3, and how his wife has type 1 diabetes, and that he works nights so she won't be alone for her dialysis. Batman's like, Fred is not dying. And he wants to go alone, but Jefferson convinces him to take the team, and they go down to save Fred and the others. It's pretty straightforward. Like, Karma's got some dudes, but the real ploy is just get Batman down here. So yeah, the team's here, but the real thing is to get Batman and Karma to fight 1v1. Batman himself resolves to go after Karma on his own, feeling that he has to defeat Karma himself to prove that Karma is wrong, and Black Lightning agrees, and Katana says that if he can't keep Karma out of his mind, then show him what he will be afraid of. So Batman and Karma fight, and as Karma dives into Batman's mind, Batman pulls him deeper into his memories, and it goes over, the death of his parents, the Catwoman thing, the death of Jason Todd, Bane breaking his back, presumably the Killing Joke, the time he was killed by Darkseid, presumably, or sent back in time by Darkseid, the time he died fighting the Joker in Batman Endgame, and so on and so forth, the time he underwent brain death at the end of the super heavy story. It's just too much. All the events of Dark Knight's Metal, and it freaks him out. This allows Batman to remove the helmet, leaving Fleet a shaking, scared husk. And it's pretty much how the comic ends, with Jefferson agreeing to help lead Batman's team. And as the comic ends, Martina finds out that Batman knows about her and says that he will find that Markovia is not Gotham City. She's ready for him. Overall, Detective Comics number 97, I think, was a decent way to end this. I'm trying to wonder why Katana's there. And if you go by the copy of this, which I love, the Brainiac Files. The Brainiac Files aren't really a thing. The cover implies they have to deal with Brainiac. It's not really. If anything, it's a bit of a metaphor for your Brainiac, hey, Brainiac's files, and everything that Brainiac has sort of coming back to bite us in some way. But not really. That's sort of like the weakest point of this, but this was all really fun, but I think it sort of also missed what the story was trying to be from my perspective, which was, Batman dealing with the idea that everyone just sort of used to him. Everyone like, hey, Batman, so get your phones out, click, click, click. Oh, I'm videotaping this. Hey, there's a Batman fan. And he was killed. It didn't really feel like we addressed that issue. We sort of did last issue when those kids were held hostage, and people were like, Batman's here, it's going to be all right. That's great, but maybe Karma was right that people should fear Batman again. That, good people should still be a bit wary of him. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. And finally, we have Justice League Dark Issue 2. So Wonder Woman, Zatanna, Swamp Thing, Man-Bat, and Detective Chimp are able to fight off the magically corrupted corpses, which Swamp Thing says were powered by the red, which is sort of like the green. It's one of the primal forces of Earth. Diana wants answers, and Zatanna says they need to see Dr. Fate, so they head to the Tower of Fate, which also has the Tree of Wonder growing behind it, so Swamp Thing goes to investigate it while the others go inside. Dr. Fate seems to want to help, but he finds out that they want to talk to Naboo, the spirit of the helmet, as opposed to Kent Nelson, the current holder of the helmet, so he pulls Diana and Zatanna aside while Kirk and Detective Chimp are left in the foyer. So we cut to Swamp Thing, who's sort of hanging around the tree, and he encounters Constantine. And Constantine reveals that he knows that Alec Holland, the current Swamp Thing, will soon join the Parliament of Trees, as he's pushed himself too far holding back the Tree of Wonder all this time. Chimp and Kirk, meanwhile, they sort of wander around and find a vase that Kirk accidentally drops, thinking he's handing it to Detective Chimp, and it breaks and reveals that it isn't a vase, but actually Khalid Nasur, who was the previous Dr. Fate during a little event we call the DCU, which was this sort of interesting, sort of not interesting period of DC Comics where it was creativity over continuity. So everyone told the story they wanted to tell, and Khalid Nasur's Dr. Fate was interesting. I would have liked to see more. I'm hoping that if Dr. Fate does stay on the team, it's Khalid, because he was fun. I would have liked to see him flesh out a bit more as a character. But whatever. So Khalid reveals that Kent Nelson hasn't been in control for months, who is also Khalid's uncle, and that it is really Naboo who has been messing with the magic. But before he can say more, he turns back into the vase, which is really, really scary. Meanwhile, Zatanna and Diana find out the truth on their own as Naboo reveals himself through a story about how the helmet was first created, and he throws the two of them into a black abyss where they are met by another of the otherkin. This time more giant and sort of has a Scott Snyder feeling to it, which apparently is because James Tynion, who wrote this, was a student of Snyder. So that's how the comic ends. Honestly, Justice League Dark #2 was great. It really was, and it's partially because I love the magic. I love magic. I really do. I love wizards. I love sorcerers, witches, and whatnot. But I also like when there's a bit of scariness to it. I think I mentioned it before as exactly how magic should be, and Justice League Dark sort of goes that route. You know, for those that practice magic, two roads lie before them: follow it into the darkness or let it guide them to the light. And you could have DC and Marvel sort of represent the two sides of that. This feels very much, if you read James Robinson's Scarlet Witch that he did, I think it was a little over a year, like 2 years ago maybe. He sort of did the same thing with this. You know, witchcraft and magic, there's a price. And Doctor Strange's book by Jason Aaron sort of dealt with the idea of the price, but it never quite works out here. In the DC universe, magic is darker. It's more dangerous. It's not something you casually go into. And I think John Constantine may be dead. That would be an interesting little trick there. But this has been really solid so far. 2 issues in. I'm loving it. I love Tynion's work. I loved him on Detective Comics. I love when he's writing Justice League when Scott Snyder just doesn't want to write it those days. This has been another really solid issue. And with that in mind, we're bringing this video to a close here. If you're new to the Buck and Think Tank, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you read any of these books, love to hear your thoughts on them. If there's a book you read that I didn't cover, leave it in suggestions or comment about it. Tell me what you thought about it. And I will catch you all later. This is the Buck and Think Tank signing off. May your fandom serve you well.